All right. Motivate us.
Ready? 3, 2, 1, go. All right, so we're Motivation. I'm Kevin.
I'm Eric.
Alan. Lewis. Quinn. Yeah, so that's what we're going to talk about. What is motivation? Motivation is the reason or reasons one has for acting, behaving a particular way. Mostly you see motivation, everybody has seen it. It's mostly movies, motivational speakers, TED Talks, stuff like that. It's where you go and you just describe the word. It's what it is. What I would be talking about is intrinsic motivation. That is what is driven by internal rewards. It is mostly not what you see outside of your body, the feeling like outside your body. It's what you feel inside your body. It's mostly like the tingling feeling when you go up for a speech. You get butterflies. That's intrinsic. The whole thing with inside is it's a mind game. It's not like when you go out and you see professional athletes go out there and you see them go speaking to their teammates. That's what they do is intrinsic, is when you speak to somebody, you get the mind game to see, make sure they're on the right page. Intrinsic is mostly in classrooms. A lot of professors use this to make sure students aren't just sitting there on their laptops and not just focusing. They're trying to get in their mind so they actually learn the material that they're doing. It's mostly just to focus on not making sure you're active. It's because motivation is not just when you're active, it's when you're actually learning. This is a quote. It's "I like criticism makes you strong." LeBron James, famous athlete. Criticism is a thing that you do, and you take it to heart and you make sure you use it better.
I think you should just dribble. Right? Everybody with me on that one, right?
Another criticism thing. It's usually to make you like criticism makes you feel down. It's not always down. You can always use criticism to make sure you feel empowered and use it to learn from your mistakes. Runner's high is another thing. It's physical feeling. This is not physical. It's when, as a runner myself, when you go out and run and you don't think you're going to just feel the pain. It's the mind game. If you run a marathon and you're 2 miles away, it's the mind game. Do you actually want to finish or do you go up 2 miles away? You don't ever do that. Another one. This is Mario Götze. It's the World Cup final goal for Germany to win it. It's basically
Is that Ronaldo?
That's Mario Götze.
Is that Ronaldo?
He was the person that came on very late in the game to change the whole game. So the mind game that he came on and told his team that we're winning it. And acceptance. Being accepted as a person just by the actions you do. You go out there and you act who you want to act as. And if people tell you otherwise, then it's what they want to. But if you accept yourself, then that's what it is. There's another quote from Toy Story. If you go out and act who you want to act, is your friends accept you who you are. Everybody has friends on campus, and there's different friend groups for reasons because people don't want to see you in public. People that do accept you are your friends. Curiosity. It's really what it makes curiosity defines itself. It's you're curious. Every college kid is curious. You can tell it otherwise since you've been growing up as a kid, or just like the next quote you'll see. But it's just you go out there and you ask questions to learn. So what people do, curiosity killed the cat. When you were younger and your parents said, "Hey, there's a candle burning, don't touch it because it's hot," how many did you go touch the candle to see if it's actually hot? You didn't believe them? It's curiosity. Next slide. Honor. Respect the rules around you. That's what honor means. It's literally, you can think of it any way you want. When you go out in public and you see things happening or rules around areas, just you say you go to a supermarket and you do that, there's rules, no stealing. For example, I grew up in Sweden for part of my life and dual citizen, so I grew up totally different. When you walk into my house, there's no shoe policy, so the honor of my rules, my house, is you take your shoes off the front door, and that's how it is. It's just you basically follow rules around you.
Looks like you can't even wear shoes on that lawn.
The next one is if you go see an Army vet eating out alone. I did this once in my life. I was at a nice diner back in my hometown, North Jersey, and I saw an Army vet sitting alone, eating alone. I felt horrible for him. So I went over to the waiter and paid for his dinner because it's honorable to see what you see there. Confidence, the feeling of relief that one can rely on something. If you go into something confident, it's really more important than going in scared. If you go in scared to something, it's not what you want to do. One of the examples is I had a job interview, and if you go in, like last week, if you go in scared, doesn't look good. You go in, you're sweating, you're shaking, doesn't look good to anybody, doesn't look good to yourself, doesn't look good to your employer that you're going to try to work for. So it's not I can't, it's I can. You go out there, knowledge. If anybody's watching Game of Thrones, I thought it was very funny. Brace yourself, knowledge is coming. It's just, you go out there and you see what is coming. As you go out to class, why are you guys in class? Because you want to learn, you want to get knowledge, and you want to learn who you do. It's just you think who you are, and that's what it is. Responsibility. It's just, one of the examples is I was promoted to manager without wanting the money. A lot of responsibilities, you go out and you try to find the position for money. But if you work hard and you have responsibility, you will get the promotion. And now I'm going to pass off that.
Oh, pause it. Okay, brace yourself. Professor Casper is coming. So, great job. Now do this.
Yes.
Right. So when you see the video, you'll see that you look back, well, because this thing isn't really working.
That's why
I know. So you were looking back, which caused you to seem nervous. But what you were really doing was just looking back, and then you kind of got into it. Face your attitude. You were looking at me a lot. Make sure that you look at everybody. And then, again, remember, everybody go back to this neutral stance. You did great.
Thanks. All right, so if you want to just play it, I guess. 3, 2, 1. On one side, 21. All right, and go.
All right, so what is extrinsic motivation? Extrinsic motivation is your behavior is motivated by an external factor that pushes you to either get a reward or possibly a bad outcome. This can be an example like when you have an exam, you kind of study and cram for that test and you don't really retain the information. Another one is exercising. A lot of people don't exercise because they actually love exercise. It's more because they want to look good, they want to get praise, and maybe even for weight loss as well, which is kind of external. It's what you're going to look for. A lot of you guys probably have seen this in elementary school. It's a star chart. So your teachers would reward you with a star for good grades, good behavior, etc. And you would eventually get a reward if you got up to a certain number. This is very present in the classroom. A lot of students use extrinsic motivation for like tests and exams. Floyd Money Mayweather. His middle name says it all. He loves money. He does it for money, not because he loves boxing. He's even willing to put his body on the line in a UFC fight against Conor McGregor for another paycheck. The extrinsic worker is kind of in the job just because for the pay, for the benefits. A good example of this is a lot of people have a job because they want healthcare or financial issues. They actually probably don't even like their job, but they're stuck there because they have to. Punishment is another example of extrinsic motivation. You kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm sorry, guys. Thanks. So when your boss is punishing you, you tend to lack the ability to want to be motivated again. Employee of the month is a good reward for people. A lot of people like it, a lot of people don't. But this can cause people to want to. Sorry. It forces you to not be motivated and not be engaged. So to engage your workers, you want to talk to them about intrinsic rewards and what they value. So a lot of people don't always value money and employee of the month rewards. So if like vacation days, extra time at lunch. Those are things that are intrinsic and make you feel good instead of monetary rewards. Google does this. They offer video games, time to collaborate with their coworkers, and this is an intrinsic feeling. They feel satisfied. They feel like they want to be at work. There's more creativity that comes from this, and they're more willing to put time and effort in as well. Praise is another good example. You want to give praise to your workers. You want to tell them what they're doing wrong, what they're doing right, and tell them what skills they're possessing at a high level and what they're not. This makes them feel like they're a part of the company, makes them feel engaged in the whole organization. Training is a key aspect. How many of you guys have been in a job where you're not trained well and you're kind of sitting there like, what the hell am I doing? Like, this is all pointless. Like, that is not fun. You do not want to work in an environment like that. Training is key to keep your employees engaged and on the job. Loyola Chicago, they use both intrinsic and extrinsic. They weren't such a powerhouse team. They even didn't really have any NBA prospects, but they used collaboration, their passion, and their desire to play, not just because they wanted to get to the NBA or to receive an award at the end, of which they did. You want to create a path for your employees. So you want to let your employees know that they can gain experience in the organization, they can move up, or maybe even go do more things. No one wants to be at a job where it's a dead-end job and they're stuck there. And they kind of just feel like they don't really have a path to succeed at a higher level. Like I was just saying, you probably have had a job where your boss tells you to go do a task and you're sitting there, why am I doing this? This is pointless, waste of my time. No one likes that. You want meaningful work. And when you don't have meaningful work, you're less likely to produce and want to come to work. Give your employees freedom. Give them like choice of projects and opinions that they have. This way they can be creative and they'll be able to come up with more ideas than you think they will, and actually probably even better ideas. So an example of this is Draymond Green and the Warriors. Steve Kerr, the coach, actually let the players draw up their own play in the middle of a timeout in the game, and it worked. They succeeded, and the whole team felt like they were a part of it, which is a good thing for morale and to be successful. Loyalty. You want to show that you care. You want to show your employees that you're loyal to them. This retains employees. This works for employee retention. And employee turnover is a huge problem for companies. They spend millions and millions of dollars on training and hiring new employees. Change. So a lot of employees don't like the processes that go on in the organization. So let your employees come out to you and tell you what they think needs to be changed, what can be better, or what can be worse. So in doing that, you'll get someone who loves their job. They'll feel like they are a part, all of us, you are a part of the success that comes with the company, and they'll be more likely to show up and stay there for a long time. So at the end of the day, you want to combine both intrinsic and extrinsic. You want to engage with your employees to get their intrinsic reward, what they value, and you also want to be able to avoid punishment and monetary rewards. They kind of have people not feel so willing to want to be a part of the organization. Yeah, let's pause.
So another source of motivation is going to be power. And the way power works is you have certain presenters that want to be on top and want to be more powerful, and other things is you want to give people certain powers to be able to push forward and push the team forward. Here you can see like a hierarchy set up. You have the top level CEOs, you have their lower level managers, and you have the managers underneath them. It's like a trickle down system. How it works is the powers at the top gives power down lower. They divvy out to their lower managers. They divvy out to their associates. That way the associate tells the person above them, and it goes back up that way. It's almost like a team. Teams work good together when there's like that one team leader. If everyone's trying to be a team leader and everyone's trying to report to each other, it's not going to work out. There's got to be that one person organizing the team, divvying out parts. That way it can be nicely organized and collective and be more successful. When you go down to a personal trainer level, this person screaming in her face, well, she hired him as her personal trainer, hired him to train her, motivate her to keep going. He has that power to push her even further than she ever knew she could be possibly pushed. And that's the power that she gave him to allow him to do these things. And in some cases it works out, in some cases it doesn't. It just depends how you respond to someone obviously screaming in the mic. In this picture, you have a Army general leading his troops into battle. It's a very powerful picture. It's very motivating for his troops to see him out in front of them and leading them along the way. They're following their commander into war. And that's a very powerful stance to many Army people that can see their leaders in front of them. Here, this is the power of motivation of a picture. As you can see, the bear on the piece of ice as global warming. The ice is melting. The bear's got nowhere to go. You can also see the picture of garbage on a beach, which is pollution. It's a very powerful, moving picture that could possibly move a lot of people and motivate them to want to make a change. Here you can see Martin Luther King linked arms. This is another powerful movement as power motivates people in numbers. The way this works is if you're linked arms with one another and you're moving forward, no one can break you. No one can get through you. It's a very powerful movement, and this is a very way to motivate people to keep going. Keep calm and be a leader. Super simple. If you're calm and collective and organized, your troops are going to be calm and collective and organized. If you're freaking out, they're going to know, and they might lose faith in you. So the power is just to keep calm and know exactly what you're trying to do. As you can see in this next slide, is a manager is going to be yelling at his employee. Not a lot of people respond well to being yelled at, and as you can see in this picture here, he's very upset, miserable, not liking what's going on right now. But the manager is using his power as a boss just to keep on screaming and obviously not delivering the message the proper way for this specific employee. This causes poor morale. The morale rate of your team could significantly lower. And when you have a poor morale, people aren't going to want to do the work that you think they're going to want to do. If your whole team has low morale, I don't want to go to work, I don't want to do this, I hate my boss, I hate my job, it all goes downhill from there. Try to keep morale up, and that's a very powerful movement. Social is another motivator. You want to, the way like social motivation works is that you want a certain thing. You're a type of person, you're looking for something in specific, you're looking at someone else, hey, they're in that social group, I kind of want to look into that. And looking at it in that perspective is kind of like a social motivation. Social groups. It doesn't matter race, skin color, religion, none of that matters. You're in a social group because you want to hang out with the certain people you're hanging out with. It's a big social movement because it motivates you to want to do the right thing and talk to the right people and to be accepted into that one group because you enjoy being around them and you enjoy hanging out with them. Here you can see Navy SEALs working as a team to move this log. The SEAL to the left and the SEAL to the right, they're motivated socially by not letting their partner down. They don't want to let the man next to him down because if they do, then that log's not going to leave the ground. So they have to work as a team, and that's why teamwork's really important. The same goes for football teams. Football teams work really well together because they trust the man or the woman next to him to know exactly what they're supposed to do. And if you do your part, then the person next to you, you have that faith that they'll do theirs. If they don't, you might be socially rejected from that group. That's a big negative. You mentally don't want that to happen. So you do the right thing at the right time. Autism, the reason I want to bring this slide up because it's important to understand that people with autism need to stay socially active. You shouldn't exclude people like that, and you should want to make sure they stay socially active, interacting with one another, talking to people. That way you keep them social and in different social groups and not secluded out of a bigger environment. Here you can see gaming. You want to be the best you can be to be accepted in this social environment. It motivates you to be the best gamer you can be to get into these competitions or to get into certain rewards. And when you're the best you can be, you get accepted and be like, hey, let's go play Xbox or something. It's kind of that nice feeling within friend groups when you all, gaming together. Here you can see a hierarchy. The way the hierarchy works is you kind of see someone with a certain social status and you're trying to achieve that. You're trying to get that high apple, not the low-hanging fruit, but the fruit that's all at the top of the tree that you have to climb up to grab it. And social hierarchy also works when wanting to achieve a certain status. As you can see, you have your special cars, you have your flying jets, and that's something that some people want. And to receive that, you want to reach up and get to that social status. You want to work harder. That's what commits you, is that social motivation. Hey, I want to grab this. I want to get this done. Here you can see what could happen if social motivation does not positively affect you or you don't get exactly what you're looking for. It's kind of like a sadness or an anxiety level because some people overwork themselves to reach that kind of social status, and they over motivate, and they kind of beat themselves up over it if they don't get certain achievements. Then here's a simple peer pressure. Sometimes you just get peer pressure into a situation because that's what you think is socially acceptable when it's not. You should really take a step back and think about what's really worth it to you and what kind of motivation, because this is a huge negative motivation, even though it is one.
Hi, everyone. I'm going to be talking about achievement motivation. Real definition is it can be defined as an individual's need to meet realistic goals, receive feedback, and experience a sense of accomplishment. If you receive regular performance evaluations, feel energized and satisfied with their jobs because goals are set. They are given positive and negative feedback on past behaviors, given some type of reward to perform well. So at my job, every 3 months or so, they have like evaluation where they see how much I've done, how much I haven't done, and they give me feedback, positive or negative. I'll tell them out, by the way. Both of which they help me to get better, or if I'm slacking a little bit, they can help me to reach their goal and my goal as well, for me to get my achievement motivation up. Anyone can learn it, or has learned it or done it. It's really all of it motivated to achieve something in their life. If you set goals for yourself, or sure for a manager, if they set goals for their employees, and if their employees are motivated, they do their best at work and giving the manager the best results possible. Every goal you set may not be easy. It could be as easy as just going to the gym that one day or not, but it could be a lot harder. However, if you stick with it, you have a very positive feedback, and any feedback in general, you could accomplish that goal. Next pop-up, who's seen Creed? Everyone's seen Creed, right? So in the movie Creed, it's a really good example of achievement motivation. He came up, he wanted to be like his father Apollo, be a great boxer, and throughout the whole movie, he's like training, he's going, he also got good feedback from Stallone over here. Even though he loses in the end, he's still fighting because there's rumors about a second one coming along. He fights that Russian guy, I don't know who it is. So he still has that motivation. So for the last year, I actually have been working 2 jobs, pulling over about 40 hours a week and a full-time student. It's been extremely difficult planning or just doing all of it, staying focused and everything. And I'm actually planning a trip. I leave May 20th again, or I'm backpacking around Europe. It's 5 weeks planning this. It's one of the hardest things I've ever done, especially with all the money and everything. It's extremely difficult. Now, how you can implement achievement motivation in the workplace. You got to recognize great work. You got to recognize that in your employees. Yes, set small, measurable goals. Applaud results. You got to let them know they're doing well. Stay positive. Stay fueled. Take regular breaks. Stay healthy. See and share the big picture. You got to share the same vision with your employees. Be transparent. Provide clarity. You got to envision and share positive outcomes. Find purpose. Loosen the reins. Provide a sense of security. Power pose. Encourage the teamwork. Offer small, consistent rewards. And change the scenery. Practice and promote mindfulness. And just got to have fun with it. All right, so now we're going to talk about growth motivation. It can be defined as the need for self-improvement, which is an internal motivation. It's a burning desire to increase our knowledge of ourselves and of the outside world. It can be a very strong form of motivation, and we seek to grow as individuals. Motivation of growth can also be seen in our yearning for change. Many of us are wired by our personality or upbringing to constantly seek a change, either external or internal environment or knowledge. We view stagnation to be both negative and unbelievable. The gym is probably the best example of that. You want to change either yourself or to be like either thinner or bigger, whatever, healthier, doesn't matter. It's a form of motivation to get better or to improve yourself. Another one pop up is college. We're all changing ourselves. We're all doing this for ourselves. We're just getting smarter, trying to change the future as well with where we're going to work at, just being educated in general. And everyone's heard the quote, where there's no will, there's no way. Best way to improve personal effectiveness is to master your motivation and find your drive. You really got to find that drive in you. You can do this by a couple of different ways. You got to connect to your values. You got to find what values or matter to you. Doesn't really matter what time you do life. That's why a lot of people have midlife crisis and everything. You got to find your why. To find that why, if you have found a why, you got to change your why. Change your how. Remember the feeling. It's always good to just remember the last time you went to the gym, how good that felt to actually go into it and stick with it. Shift to past, present, and future. You gotta take action. You just gotta get up and do it. Just do it. Press yourself first. Change your question. It's really good to change your question. And play your strengths. Apart from the results and all the important bottom line, the successful manager can be determined on how the employees' morale and motivated they are. If the manager ain't doing their job and motivating their employees to be better, then they really won't meet the goal or the vision that should be shared between employee and company. It's very important to have team motivation. If you, or should I say, you can show your trust, especially with a manager to an employee. Include them in big decisions. If you're ever to do something drastic, you should ask them how they're doing or what they think of it. Incentivize with a prize. Always reward your employees. Invest in your employees. They're investing in you, so you might as well invest back. And give them a purpose. So my job, like I said, with the reports, they always have that goal where they want me to be at, but also where I want to be at. I mean, I don't want to be the last one because they rank you on how many calls and whatever you make. And I don't want to be the last person, so I always try to be better. And they help me do that. And now to recap it all.
So I'm going to talk to you guys about incentives. So incentives are performance-based rewards based on how well you're doing. And they're both monetary and non-monetary. They're usually bonuses, reward programs, and anything added to improve performance in your employees. So there's a difference between incentives and perks. Incentives are earned while perks are given. Perks are usually things like 401ks, paid time off, healthcare, overtime pay, health and wellness. And they're usually discussed before you actually start working in your contract negotiations, when you start lining out with an interview about exactly what your job qualifications require. And then sometimes some companies might even provide free food or reimbursement for your travel. And then, So incentives lead people to be driven by the idea that they'll be rewarded for accomplishing a goal or reaching a target that has been set. And inside and outside of the workplace, you see this around in like sports and in academics, and it's in the concept of if you do something, you'll be rewarded for that. People think of usually cash bonuses when they think of incentives. This is true, but there are also a lot of other things that companies can do. The incentives are usually just anything that will make you perform your job better. So I will get into certain things like Employee of the Month programs. This is an acknowledgement for the best workers in the company. As you see, SpongeBob was the best for his company. And you usually get additional rewards. I know that 2 years ago, I was working as a temp at a nonprofit organization with over 120 social workers. And they were split up into about 15 teams. And every month, they would their team leader would select someone, and they would get team member of the month. They would get a parking spot at the front of the office. They would get 2 days off paid, and they would also get an additional 2 hours per week to set aside to take off for like an extended lunch. And then I'm going to get into promotions. Promotions are for the best employees, and they're used to advance your position in an organization. So if anyone's ever watched The Office, Dwight Schrute started off as sales, and then he worked his way up through his loyalty to the company and his hard work, and he eventually got to be the regional manager, which was his final goal. And then there are also things like company-funded events. They're used to boost morale and show that the company cares about their employees. Another Office reference, Stanley Loves Pretzel Day. And then until he gets to another 364 days, he's not as motivated until it's the next pretzel day. Another thing that companies do is office parties. It allows relaxation, and it allows workers to take their mind off of work for a little bit. And it can also create a nice team atmosphere within the office. And then outside of the workplace, the incentives are not limited to just being in the workplace. You see this with college scholarships, both academic and for sports. So students work hard while they're in high school, and they have the opportunity to receive funding for a school that they might want to go to. So then I'm going to get into Fortnite. Why do people play Fortnite? It provides a constant incentive of wanting to be the best. So even if you lose, you go right into the next lobby and you want to be number one. So that's another way of, it gives instant gratification. You get the thing on the screen saying that you're number one. That's why people keep going back to the game. Now I'm going to get into fear-based motivation. And this is often referred to in business as the carrot and the stick. This is when incentive fails and you need to use something else, but it's not necessarily in a negative context. You see this most in schools where if you don't perform, you will get bad grades. So as this can seem disheartening, it's supposed to be used as a motivation to study and to get good grades, because no one wants to get an F on their test because that just feels really bad. This is also seen in the workplace when rules exist everywhere, in schools, on the town, in your workplace. If you break the rules, you'll get punished in some way, whether it be a deduction in pay, or at worst case, you can get fired for not performing and doing your job well. And then an example of this would be, if you can't tell, I really like The Office. When Pam and Andy, they have the lowest sales figures, and the lowest sales figures of the quarter have to go out and make cold calls, a job that no one wants to do. So they got punished for their bad numbers, meaning that they had to do a job that no one else wanted to do. That was their punishment. Fear doesn't always have to be in a negative context. It could be as simple as working for your family. You want to provide for your family. So you want to do the best job that you can so that you can keep your job and that you can give your family everything that they need. And then another way that fear-based motivation works is through commissions. And that's why you see a lot of used car dealers are like kind of a little pushy and a little annoying. It's because their livelihood's on the line. They're working off of commission, which percentage of sales is their own salary, which means that if they don't do their job right, they don't get paid. If they do well, then they'll have a lot of money. And so I hope, thank you for listening. I hope you learned something, and I hope you can apply this to your future careers. Thank you.
Very good. Group one, is group one here? Who's in your group?